So I guess in this one we'll start off and talk about like packing the range bag.
Or yeah, what
Should we do with the
what
range?
people should put in the range bag that they don't think about, or what's must-haves, probably, right?
Yeah.
How to organize, and then that can.
Then we can go into organization,
Yeah.
and then we can even get into the point where we get a little away from the bags and just talk about like drills, what we do with the range.
Yeah.
I might even talk about since I built a range, setting it up, things to consider. Down the range rabbit hole.
Yeah. And differences between like somebody that builds a range on a property where they don't, versus like you behind your house, still target storage.
Yeah. So for the longest time, I was going to build a carry bag for range targets, but the wear and tear,
The weight.
the weight's incredible, but you could still make a bag that would hold it. You might have to do like 1050 ballistic nylon.
I'm just gonna do so.
It would be crazy expensive just to make a bag to carry.
Yeah, and that's just gonna cover the steel torso. It's not gonna cover the stands and all that other stuff either.
And those stands are so wildly different. Some of them break
Yeah.
down. Some of them are like that H.
Mine
and
are
they're all
welded.
welded.
Yeah.
But
I've been rolling.
Okay.
here we are.
Yeah.
So, so I guess we're just going to talk about, we'll start with you. What do you pack in your range bag?
So it depends on what I'm doing, how many guns I'm bringing to the range. Like if I'm filming or doing some sort of testing, a lot of times it gets a little extreme.
Hold on, time out. Let's preface this with, you used to carry your guns in a 5-gallon bucket
With
wrapped in T-shirts and towels. So
Yeah.
don't put too much emphasis on what he says. But anyway, go ahead.
So if I'm going to the range just to work on skills, I normally will bring the pistol range bag. I might bring a Concord. It just depends on if I'm working revolver and semi-autos, I'll generally bring the Concord. If I'm working just one or the other, I'll bring the pistol range bag, a couple boxes of ammo. I use the dividers or the inserts as a divider. Put my ammo in one section, separate out my guns, throw magazines, a shot timer, and then in the pockets, I keep a Maglula loader, which I actually have tied off with paracord to one of the zippers. And then I always keep cleaning stuff. So I'll keep just some degreaser in there and some lube, as well as a little piece of T-shirt. Because I'm shooting a lot more revolvers now, I keep a nylon brush to brush the revolvers off. One thing I don't keep in there that I should is some sort of rod to punch brass out if I get a stuck case. And yeah, I know you love these as well, fix-it sticks.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff.
Every range bag needs fix-it sticks. That is and not necessarily fix-it sticks, but some sort of.
You got to have some kind of tool kit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crucial. It's funny you mentioned the dividers because going off on a little tangent here, but we used to make them with the actual stuff built in them. Now we're making them more modular to where if you just want to use them as dividers, you can just put them in as dividers, and they're actually more padded because of the loop field that we're using on those. So you can actually just use them as dividers, and we sell them as dividers now. So we're actually more in tune with how you set yours up instead of having something that actually mounts to it. You just use it as a separator.
So, look at what you bring to the range. It's basically ammo, iPro, Ear Pro. Yeah. So on the pistol range bag, I keep my iPro in one end, my Ear Pro right next to it, and then on the other end, I keep the cleaning stuff and the fix-it sticks.
Yep. So in that same regard, when we were making our latest bag, it's called the Valkyrie. It should be out hopefully before Christmas. We opened it up because people were basically using kind of how you are. You're more in it. You're operating out of it. And so instead of getting there and taking everything out, you're shooting, you're putting stuff back in. And you're leaving stuff that you're not actively using in the bag versus setting it out on a table. So we don't have like a rollout mat. We don't have any of that stuff in this new bag. But we've opened it up, made it bigger, and created that division to where you can create dividers as you see fit. So you can run them long ways, or you can run them side to side. So you'll have that much more organization and modularity.
Yeah,
with this new bag.
It's a lot easier for me just to pull out my guns. I lock the slide back for the revolvers, open up the cylinder so you can see everything safe, point them down range. And then every time I go to the range, I'm going to need iPro, going to need EarPro. And I've got Peltors for my handgun setup, and like the big comfortable ones. Mm-hmm. They're horrible for shooting rifles because they will hit the cheek weld.
Oh, yeah.
They're great for pistols, though. They're not that much, like $150. Mm-hmm. They're worth every penny of that.
So you'll like this. One of our customers, a really good customer of ours, bought a ton of bags from us. He communicates with me a couple times a year, and he basically shared his layout, which helps us with R&D. But he keeps his guns, and this is something we didn't really consider, but he keeps all of his guns in a holster in the bag.
Yeah.
So that division how you lay yours out is actually more in tune with probably how people are carrying it versus taking it out, putting it in a holster in a holder in the bag, and then putting the holster somewhere else in the bag. I think a lot more people are taking additional guns in their holsters and putting them in the bag. So something to consider, which I'm sure you love to hear that because they're carrying holsters. Yeah, so they've got a holster for every gun, which you really should if you're going to carry it. But just an interesting tidbit.
So, have you thought about like shot timers and all? So that's where I carry the Concorde sometimes. So the Concorde, you've got two more pockets, a larger interior space. On the other two pockets, though, it gets a little heavy. Like I ended up carrying 2 fix-it sticks plus another toolkit, and then I've got way larger amounts of cleaning supplies. I've got what is the brand? I think it's G Code or HSGI. Some of their like universal style mag carriers that I can just throw their paddles, so I can throw a pistol mag in there, any pistol mag. They're great to have for training purposes. Just throw them on, easy to use the range with any magazine. And then shot timer. That's one thing about the pistol range bag. If I'm carrying more than 2 guns, there's not really room for my shot timer.
So you do have a good point there because I was actually going through mine the other day. I have 2 shot timers. I have the SG timer, the Shooter's Global timer, which if you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend everybody check out the SG timer. That is by far.
You got detailed reviews up on your site, right?
It's on our list of best shot timers. It's actually number 1 in our opinion, but I haven't done a full, complete write-up on it, but I need to. But I highly recommend it, and we actually have a coupon code that saves $15. They're a little expensive, but
how much do they run? Roughly, I know you don't.
I think 200.
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
I think. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But it's a couple $100. They're more expensive than like the blue ones, the competition pro ones.
I think those are about $150.
Yeah,
right?
They're more expensive than all of those. But this thing has leaps and bounds features over it. It has a range. It has like a range officer mode where it doesn't track that stuff. So like if you're just doing it for somebody else, and then it has profiles that keeps track of your split times, keeps track of all your data, and then it also has dry fire modes. It's incredible. Like the screen's cool, good battery life, and it has this clip-on thing that actually is magnetic, so you can pull it off without actually taking the clip off of your belt. So you pull it off and look at your thing and do whatever you need to do, and then just pop it back on just like that because it's magnetic. Anyway, went down that rabbit hole, but that's a really cool shot timer. But I also have that one and the Pro Competition or Pro Electronics blue one.
And also this, avoid the pack timer.
Yeah, don't get the pack timer.
They work great for like a year, and then they always break, and you can't get them fixed.
Yeah, they're if that's all you can get it. But just know that probably short longevity. But yeah, I was looking at it, and I just keep them in my end pocket. But I don't like that because they just kind of bounce around. So did make me think what's a better way to carry the shot timers to prioritize their security, and because again you invest a good bit of money in these shot timers, and they're not that. I will give credit to the Shooter's Global timer. It's a little bit more rugged, it's a little bit more well built, and they even sell a rugged one I think that is a little bit more beefed up than like the Pro Electronics. Like that thing's made out of.
So what do you
Just plastic.
What do you do for iPro?
I typically wear my sunglasses. And I need to get, it's funny. We make bags, but I'm like the worst when it comes to having pre-set up bags that you can just throw whatever gun you're taking in and go, and it be completely set up. I do okay. Like I need a toolkit, and a few other things. One of the things I always put in mine are D-lead wipes. I use the Hero wipes, but I know there's some other brands out there. You have some kind of.
I think it's D-lead wipes.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
But that's really important though, because a lot of people don't realize lead poisoning, that sort of thing, is a concern.
Yeah.
And if you got little kids, you want to make sure you're not touching your little kids after you've been shooting.
Yeah. I always just I'll hand them out. But I like the Hero wipes just because I like the little package that they come in. Nothing wrong with the D-lead wipes.
Yeah.
Those come in good package too. But I keep those in there. And there's one thing that I feel like we need to come out with and develop. There's no real good way. Now, we have the ammo dump pouch, but that's if you want to carry loose ammo. I personally have those little plastic boxes. Who makes those?
Plastic boxes for
Ammo. They're in the tray. You have them too. But they have different the ammo cans.
Yeah,
they're plastic ammo cans. That's how I carry ammo. But I think we need to make something. I know they have the bang boxes and things like that, but we need to make something that goes in our bag better that holds different ammos. Because unless you're carrying it with the box, it's kind of cumbersome.
So I used to shoot in an indoor range a lot more, and when I got Gator glasses, but I got the clear lenses.
Right.
So those take up a lot of space, the case for those. If you're going to get Oakley's or whatever ballistic rated glasses, they take up space. They're expensive. And then your Ear Pro. That is one thing, though. iPro and Ear Pro stays consistent from every bag I have, and I'm not going to spend, roughly about $300, $400 to outfit each bag.
Yeah.
With different iPro, Ear Pro. So it would be cool to see something that makes it easier to keep those components, so I can just more easily switch them.
It's almost like
to a different bag,
like a box.
Yeah,
not a box, but just not a bag either, but like something that holds it sturdy.
Maybe something that could attach to your existing products in some way.
Yeah, or just at least slide in a pocket where it's it's there, and if you are switching between bags, it's just grab that one thing and throw it in there. That's not a bad idea because and everybody takes different stuff to the range, but we send out a survey to our pistol range bag customers and ask them, hey, what do you carry to the range? And it's usually, I think the vast majority of people are carrying 3 to 5 guns, and then of course ammo, staplers, hearing protection, eye protection. Pretty much the standard stuff. You do get some crazy outline things that are very specific to certain people, and unfortunately, you can't make something for everything. But in the toolkits, those are a big deal. So we have quite a few pockets to put that stuff in, but we're really focusing on organization and keeping things organized and ready to go.
I'll say toolkit wise, that's the big thing I like about Fix It sticks. It takes up a very small amount of room in the bag itself and doesn't weigh a lot.
Yeah.
Most of the other toolkits out there can get pretty bulky.
Yeah, they get bulky. And look at cleaning kits. A lot of cleaning kits. Now there's a couple that are small and you just put them together and, they're zipper pouched and you just throw them in there. That's another thing, you need to take some kind of oil. It was funny, at our last range shoot where we do our photography and everything, I had a brand new AR that I just built. That Fortis gun, that multicam black Fortis gun. I think that's sweet, by the way. It needs some oil, and I didn't have any, but thankfully everybody else I was with was more prepared than me, naturally, and so that's another thing. You gotta have some oil, some gun oil. Well, I hate rim oil, but whether it's rim oil or what, something to add lubrication because in
a pinched WD-40 rim oil, it can work.
Yeah, it does, but if I like to use the ALG stuff.
Yeah.
But, there's all kinds of stuff you can use.
So I was at a guys trip weekend last weekend and got Guy had an auto ordnance M1 carbine clone, and he was going to shoot it. This guy didn't have a lot of experience. He had CZ75, which was well maintained, but I think he was borrowing this from his dad, maybe. And he goes to shoot it, gets one round off. After that one round, everything else after it doesn't cycle. And
clean, need to be clean, or
it was meticulously clean. It had not been lubed though. I don't know if it had ever been shot before.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So I walk up. I'm like, hey, just wait a minute, dude. Put a little ALG on it. Had him cycle a few times. Put a little bit more. He cycled it. Throws a mag in. It worked fine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Ran in the same thing with a brand new PSA Dagger. And then, the first thing is they're going to be like, oh, well, it's a cheap, polymer frame pistol. I'm like, oh, time out. I've got a Dagger, and it's red. It ran flawlessly. Give it to me, broke it down, lubed up the rails, boom, boom, but no problems. Thought it was a magazine issue, but no, wasn't magazine, nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. Just need a little bit of oil.
So I've heard some crazy stories from you. We've all heard the guys, hey, Glock can go 5,000 rounds without cleaning or whatnot. Without cleaning, yes. It'll go approximately 3,000 rounds before it will start failing hard if you do not have oil on it.
Yeah.
Because
It's like not having oil in your engine, basically. They're mechanical parts. So
yeah.
You got to have some kind of lubrication. Otherwise, that carbon is just going to lock it up.
You can get away with not cleaning your guns at all for a very long time on most guns, but you do need to apply oil. Yeah. I'm not endorsing not cleaning your guns, but oil is more important than anything. So always have oil in your range bag, and oil is cheap.
I feel attacked when you're talking about not cleaning guns because, I don't do a very good job cleaning my guns. I do keep them oiled, though.
Yeah. If you got oil on a gun, though, it'll run.
Yeah. But, yeah, what you take to the range is just the essentials for the most part because you don't want to overkill. Like, you don't need every scenario under the sun. Now, one thing, we've talked about before is batteries for optics. There's nothing worse than getting to the range. Matter of fact, my Noveski, got it out there and went to pull it up, and I was like, oh, optics not on. Hit it, and I was like, it's dead. And I'm looking around, and of course, this gun's like a Gen 2, Gen 3, so it's got just a hollow sun on it. It's not like decked out or anything cool. Because it sits most of the time. I just drug it out for this photo because I'm like, we don't have a lot of photos of this thing, so I put it in the lineup. Nobody had anything to open the battery door on the hollow sun, and then I was like, I can go back to the house and get a battery, but nobody had a battery either. So I was like, man, like you'd be up Schitt's Creek if you're at some far out range, and you just have to roll with it. And so fortunately, it didn't really matter. We were just
And with most optics, it's not really a concern. But if you look at like so I had an EOTech when I was out with my buddies. I do not have 500 hours on that battery, which is what I believe the EOTechs were rated for. I'm lucky if I have 100 on that specific optic. Battery was dead.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's that's one thing like you need to have.
And that's not a go-to gun either, thankfully.
You got to have batteries in your range bag. I mean, I hate to say it. And I don't have them. But that's one thing that I'm going to change probably today.
Yeah.
Because I have the batteries. They're just not in the range bag. Why not keep it all in the range bag?
Well, it's finding a good way to store them efficiently. Yeah. And then, there's a big difference between a CR123 and like a little 2033 or 30, 20, whatever the numbers are on the little watch batteries. Yeah. They go on an Aimpoint Micro or a Trijicon RMR versus what you're going to put in an EOTech.
Yeah.
Takes different space.
But see, that's, you need a little battery holder and with just different compartments that hold those batteries because you're going to need them. And you're going to need them at the worst time, which is you've gone out for a half day or a whole day at the range and your battery's dead and now you're scrambling. And if it's your buddy's backwoods range, you're not going to find a battery.
And I'm going to say this too. This is why, my 14.5, one of my go-to ARs and my Honey Badger, they're always topped off with fresh batteries. Everything's good to go. But the rest of my guns, you just can't, once you get a collection over a certain size, you've got to focus on, I change out my 2 Glock carry guns with optics on them. Those batteries get changed out on my birthday every year. But most of my other handguns.
That's smart. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Just put them on a day like your birthday.
Yeah, first of the year.
Yeah.
Easter, Halloween, whatever works.
Yeah, it'd be your hungover activity on New Year's Day. Changing batteries.
Batteries upside down doesn't work.
So, with that being said, though, you know, we talk about ranges a lot, and I've built a personal range. It was kind of always like my grail thing. It's like I want a range in my backyard, so I actually achieved that. Now, granted, it's not.
So now you're trying to buy about 500 acres so you can put in
put in a 1,000-yard range.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a 75-yard max range, and but it's great if you want to just go shoot pistols, shoot ARs, you know, run around with your PCC, have fun.
It's really cool. He gets on his wife's horse.
No, I don't.
And then he takes his Remington, what is that gun? The
you talking about
1187 or the semi-auto. He rides around on the horse and he puts 22 Tannerite all over the place. It's really cool.
Would a shotgun round even set off Tannerite? Is it
But
fast enough?
The rimfire stuff, it would.
Oh.
Probably, I'd guess.
I thought you were talking about the shotgun.
I've been trying to talk him into doing that, but
No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting thrown off a horse is really low on my priority list. So, anyway, so building that, I actually learned quite a bit because, you know, we bermed up, did a whole article on it, have a couple YouTube videos on it. And we actually used railroad ties as a backstop to catch the dirt. They weren't for the actual rounds. It was just to basically
Dirt's not cheap if you got to haul it in.
No, and we did. But I'm getting ready to overhaul it again. I'm actually going to rent a bulldozer this time, push dirt up, and we're going to build out wings. So this is going to be like range 2.0. But a lot of stuff I learned in that, like I bought some, which we use all steel, and of course we have the stuff to put up
Paper
targets for sighting and stuff, and you know, close range, unless you're using frangibles. But I don't have any frangibles, so we got different barriers. Like you don't think about it, but just standing out in the open is very unrealistic.
Yeah.
So we bought some like old feed barrels, which were weird because they had this really weird smell when you got them. It's like real sweet. And I was like, what was in this thing? But so we set those up. Sometimes I'll stack them and use them as like, you know, because if you were to shoot these barrels, it's probably going to be unpleasant, but it'll go straight through them because they're plastic. You know,
well, what's really funny is when you're shooting the sound.
Oh, yeah.
That are or you put two of them together, that sound will reverb. If you're shooting between them.
Oh, yeah, and then put like a comp gun, or not a comp gun, but like an AR.
With a big old break on it.
Yeah, with a big break, and it shoots it left and right, and you don't clear that barrel. It's like, it's real loud. But no, they're real good because like my wife and I we created like a running path around the range because the range is it's cleared to make basically two ranges, but we only have it on one side. So it's a big rectangle, and we run it for exercise. But what I would do is I would carry during the runs. And
what he means by that is his wife gets mad at him and then chases him around, threatening to shoot him with beanbag rounds.
I wish I had some beanbag rounds, but she probably would, but that's not the point. So, but yeah, I'd run up to him, you know, fire off the rounds, and keep, you know, just get your heart rate up.
Yeah.
And, you know, just different stuff like that. It's really cool what you can do when you have more time. You know, granted, the one downside about having your own range is you get all the range maintenance. So tightening up all the steel targets and mowing the grass and knocking down all the weeds and, you know, keeping that stuff done. But the things you can do with your own personal range as far as training goes is far and beyond what you'll ever be able to do at a public range or even your buddy's place, because when you go there, you know, you're going to stand up and shoot for a while, sit down for a while, you know. But when you're at home, you run out there, you can do the real world scenario stuff, lay down, shoot on your back, you know, stuff that could have really happened.
I remember when we first met, your abilities with a handgun were not that high at all. When you got your own range within like a year, he wasn't shooting a lot. He was just going out and shooting a few rounds here and there. His abilities with a handgun progressed immensely.
So, and that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize. What would change it? They'd be like, "Oh, I'd be on the range every day," and I'm like, "You might," but here's the thing: like, how many times have I talked to you like, "Yeah, I just got done shooting," and you're like, "Well, okay, what'd you do?" I'm like, "I just shot a mag."
Yeah,
that's the thing. You just go out there, you shoot a mag, maybe do a mag change, whatever. 30 rounds at the most, and that's like a high day. So like your range days change a lot when you have that kind of access. It's kind of like having a pool.
Well, yeah. Well, there was
You don't swim all day when you have a pool. You go out there for a couple hours and then you come in. It's kind of the same way with the personal range. You're not going. I don't stay out there all day. I mean, it's a couple hours or even 15, 20 minutes a day. And you go.
Skill building wise, though, there was a point where I had a budget set aside. I was shooting 500 rounds of 9mm a week, but I only had the time to go to the range once a week. So in about 2 to 3 hours, I was shooting that 500 rounds, and my skills actually started dropping because I went from shooting a couple hundred rounds once a month or so to 500 rounds a week, and I was getting fatigued. And I went and talked to a guy who was a older competition shooter. He really knew his stuff, and he goes, the best I ever shot was when I shot 100 rounds a day, 5 days a week, because he was working at a gun manufacturer that had a range on site, and he was sponsored by somebody that was sending him all his reloading components. So he was able to just go and shoot 100 rounds every single day at lunch. And he goes, if you shoot any more, you're going to get fatigued and you're going to start seeing a skill drop off. He goes, you can work up to 500 rounds a day, but just, if you can't work up to where you're doing 500 rounds every single day, 200 rounds is the max you want to shoot at one time.
And realistically, if you're shooting 500 rounds, you're like at war or total chaos has broke out. You know what I mean?
Well,
So,
yeah,
you're not shooting 500 rounds a day on any kind of realistic.
No, but if you're shooting realistic, you're not even shooting a mag in most scenarios. So it's just more about where are you going to get diminishing returns.
Right.
It's probably around 100, 200 rounds with a handgun. And it also depends on how long you have to let your muscles rest. And
I don't know of anybody that can probably shoot 100 rounds a day outside of the situation that guy was in. But, I mean, even me, I don't have the time to even go out there and drop 100 rounds because
this guy didn't have kids.
15 round mag?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just to go back and load that would take a decent amount of time.
This guy had roughly an hour to shoot 100 rounds. And like I said, he didn't have kids, didn't have the same home requirements.
But, and two, if you have, dropping a mag or two, and especially if you can just walk to your range.
Yeah.
Like literally just walk to your range. That makes a whole different, ball game.
So steel target maintenance, though. Most steel targets I've seen these days have some sort of bolts attaching. Those are eventually going to bust, so that's something you got to keep spares for.
And two, I don't pick mine up and take them down. I know a lot of people probably keep theirs. Mine stay up. So rust naturally occurs, but it doesn't hurt anything.
Rust is a protective coating.
Yeah, and I
spray paint them.
Yeah, I was gonna say I spray paint them once a year. I try to spray paint the faces for hit registry reasons, but then as far as spraying them to coat them, I'll go and spray the stand and everything once a year. Spray paint the stands and the brackets and everything black. Of course, you hit your face and your rear, usually with white.
So I don't have a range. I'm a member at an outdoor range right now. I used to be a member at an indoor and an outdoor range. The indoor range, bringing my paper targets, they had clips there. They had staplers. They had everything you needed. The outdoor range, I got to bring. They do have target stands for paper targets, but do
they provide the 1x2s?
They do, but they're usually shot to. They're unusable. So I bought my own bases, my own 1x2s that I put my initials on, and I've started bringing my own stuff out there. I use clamps, and I keep all that stuff in the back of my truck.
Yeah.
Clamps, you can buy a bunch of clamps off Amazon for $15 I threw them in one of those Plano boxes. So I keep my stapler. I keep everything in there that's not of a lot of value. Yeah. Then I just use my range bags to transport guns and ammo, and I pray you're pro.
Smart.
Yeah. But I'd need to add, so I've got steel targets, though. I need to go get spares for the hardware, and then I also need to get a wrench. Just go on Amazon or whatever, buy a cheap single wrench that'll fit the size.
Yeah, and I will say that those bolts will eventually break. However, it's going to be a while. The biggest thing I've noticed is they vibrate loose. So your steel will be, you just have to go tighten them up. Take a wrench out there and tighten them up.
Yeah,
twice a year or so.
And I've got a toolkit in the back of my truck, but then I'm using channel locks or whatnot. It'd be nice just to have a specifically sized wrench for that size nut, and not have to worry about it.
Yeah. And I've got a Texas Star. So that one's a little bit different. You got to kind of finesse that one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's not a lot of maintenance to do with that one. That one's mostly just spray paint it, keep them rolling.
And the biggest reason I've seen people put steel up is generally they're worried about theft.
Yeah.
That's where they'll generally have some kind of shed or like lockable bins.
Yeah, or if
Connex
it's not
containers.
your range, of course you're
Yeah.
bringing it and then you're taking it if they don't provide the steel. So, which a lot of ranges don't provide the steel because people come out there and shoot steel core ammo.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff and mess their steel up. But my steel's a little pitted, but that's just gonna happen. It's steel. So
Yeah, and if you're shooting under 100 yards,
it's gonna pit.
yeah.
But it's still rocking and rolling. It's good to go. So, but yeah, I mean, having that range in the backyard it does change the dynamic a little bit because I don't have to load up a car and make sure I got everything squared away like a lot of people do that are going to a range.
There's still a lot of stuff you got to throw on your golf cart or your four-wheeler, though.
Yeah, I mean, the principle's the same because you don't like having to run back and forth, but I end up having to because I'm underprepared. But I'm gonna turn that around here soon because I've got all the bags, of course.
You thought about putting like a little shed or something out there, like something you could just keep spray paint.
The only thing that's stopping me from having a small shed out there right now is because I do plan to bring that bulldozer in, level the ground entirely, and then build up the exterior of it. Like I build up the berm even higher. So we got the berm as tall as we could, but at that time we only had a skid steer.
You to build the berm big enough we can do drive-bys with the golf cart?
You could do that now, but
Okay.
it will be taller. But no, we're gonna make it tall, and then we're gonna, of course, add wings to it, so you get a more a wider degree of play. Right now it's pretty much you just shoot straight in. But with the dozer you can push all that dirt up, and I don't have to bring it in either. So.
And I will say this because I've most of the shooting I've been doing up until the last 2 years was just at friends' places or wherever I'd get access to a place to shoot. And I joined, and I'd had access to an awesome place for a while there, but then it just became too much of a pain in the butt because the range was not their primary facility. It was a facility that it's Virginia International Raceway. They have some killer range. They've got a 1,000-yard range there. They've got a 360 pit for vehicle stuff. What they were doing was when GWAT was on, they'd host races in the weekends, and then during the week they'd fly in, counter-terror guys. Yeah. And they'd spend half their week learning to drive and the other half of the week learning to shoot, and they'd combine those skill sets. So because of that, they had some awesome facilities out there that the need for that isn't as high right now. But I was renting the range on a per time.
But...
Yeah. I was renting the range on a per time basis though, and the scheduling of that became a pain in the butt. But when you go to a facility like that and see legit ranges, how much they're built, the infrastructure cost is absolutely insane.
Oh yeah.
Because they have proper drainage, they have to worry about all the environmental stuff. It is incredible to see though.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I mean that range has always sounded crazy nice.
Yeah.
So I don't have that kind of space, but
Yet.
Yeah. So, but
where I was getting to with that was though, go online, search for ranges in your area. You might have to drive an hour and a half, most metros, but you can usually find a range that'll give you the ability to shoot out to a couple 100 yards.
And indoor ranges are fun, especially in the heat of the summer. But you really, in the fall and the spring, I would highly recommend you find an outdoor range. Just one, they're the only ranges you're going to get range, like distance. And then two, it's just a different shooting environment. The acoustics are different. It's just.
I think lighting-wise, though, actually from a training perspective, indoor ranges, even Triangle, which has pretty good, it's a nice indoor range.
Yeah.
You can be really challenged to see the iron sights on a lot of guns in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a more realistic.
Yeah, especially, depending on if things were to happen in night situations. For sure.
And most places at night, you're not in total darkness. You're going to have ambient light around you. An indoor range does simulate that better.
Yeah.
But indoor ranges are basically only good, in my opinion, for handguns.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that is interesting though, I think a lot of people have flashlights on their guns, and I'm going to say I'm guilty of this too. Don't train at night with a flashlight.
It's really hard to find a place where you can because
the shooting regulations in a lot of places are you can't shoot at night.
Yeah. And a lot of these indoor ranges will host classes.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to go to. They're not like a full day thing. It's usually
I can just turn the lights
2 hour
off.
Yeah.
So the only downside about that is if it was just you, and with this, if you're in a class with more people, there's going to be a lot more light spread. So it's kind of like
but what they'll probably do is
shoot one at a time or space out the base.
Yeah,
that makes sense. But I mean, whatever works. It just crossed my mind that even me, it's been a long time since I've shot with a flashlight, in low light conditions, and that changes the dynamic a little bit. So,
and I've taken some classes doing it, and it's really hard though because they're like, hey, we can only do it during this 1 month. We've only got 2 days that we can do this class. So
now I have done it more so on rifles because 300 blackout subsonics, not shooting steel. Like I'll push the steel aside, put up paper targets. That's pretty easy to do because nobody. I mean, it's you can hear it, but it's not gonna. If everybody's in their house at that point, they're not gonna. But now that the time's changing, it's still 6, 7 o'clock, and yes, it's dark out, but nobody's asleep, so you're not really bothering anybody. But in the dead heat of summer, when it doesn't get dark till 9 o'clock, it's tough.
Also, shooting a pistol with a suppressor on it is not anywhere the same. It's a completely different skill set.
Yeah, it's not. Shooting a pistol with a suppressor on it is fun.
Yeah.
It is not practical.
Oh,
I will always
disagree
maintain
with that. I disagree.
I don't think anybody's carrying a suppressed pistol.
Carrying, yes. Home defense.
That's fine, but it's still not practical. I
think it's practical for home defense.
Yeah, just as practical as anything else, I guess, for home defense. But
you got 3 kids, 2 of which can walk fine, 1 of which you may need to grab and have.
Yeah, but where are you keeping a suppressed pistol?
That is what they don't make a lot of safes that are honestly the safes you might as well suppress 300 blackout.
At that point, that's why I'm just like it is fun. It is probably one of the funnest things to shoot on in the suppressor realm because it's so cool to take something you're so used to shooting and it being loud and suppressing it. But as far as carrying everything, it's just it's not gonna happen. Now, if you had a ranch or something, you ride around with it a lot, then sure, whatever. But
then you're riding around with a rifle.
Yeah, you might as well. I mean, just like suppressing, it's like suppressing a PCC. I mean, at that point, just get the caliber. I mean, get 300 blackout, you know. But there's range toys and then there's practical real world stuff. But don't get me wrong. I mean, I have pistol cans and they're a lot of fun.
They are.
In no way do I look at that and be like, I need to go train with my pistol suppressed.
Well, I've noticed a lot of people are actually more accurate when they're shooting a pistol with a can on it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the muzzle rise is...
Dampens recoil. It slows the cyclic rate.
Oh, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of pros. It's just not practical. I mean, as far as real-world application use, it's absolutely practical for the range. I highly recommend it for that. But you better be prepared to actually clean your gun when you're done with that because it's going to be a carbon nightmare.
So that's a good thing. I'm usually going somewhere to shoot. I'm not. So that can has to cool down before I pack everything up. So I can never put more than like a mag through it anyway.
Yeah. It's still going to be dirty, though, because you know how much it kicks back. And with all that carbon kickback, and that's what, to me, like I've only had my honey badger lock up one time, and that was just because there was so much carbon, and I didn't put any oil on it.
Every time I go to the range with my Badger SD, oil. It's getting oil before I even try to shoot it.
And there's just so much, because they're not piston guns, and that's where I really think piston guns shine. Is they
suppressed.
They don't put all that carbon, as much carbon. Now, if you have a low back pressure can,
that's where I'm interested to see how that LaRue does.
Yeah, that LaRue is going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, and then I still haven't shot that SIG flow through can that I've got, and then I just ordered that Huxworks.
Well, those will be cool side by side because those kind of use the same technology, quote unquote, or principles.
Yeah.
So
I think my money's going to be on the Hux Works, but the quick detach on the SIG is pretty cool.
yeah. So, well, is there anything we want to wrap up with? We went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
With the suppressors.
So, all right. So while we're talking about that, do you want to talk about home defense a little bit and how somebody should set up a home defense gun, just basically?
We'll save that for the next round because this is more about ranges.
Okay.
Well, I think because we could talk for an hour about home defense.
So I do want to ask you this. Is there anything that you don't keep in your range bag that you think you should?
Oh, we already covered it with batteries.
Anything else?
Yeah. I throwaway rags. So I'm big on, like, especially at the shop, having terry cloths to where, like, when we cut fabric, it gets, like, the little puffs of stuff that get cut. We have to, like, I wipe off the table and, like, there's tons of them. So I have disposable terry cloths, so I just wipe everything down and just throw it away when I'm done. I think, I used to cut up T-shirts.
I still do that, yeah.
Clean boxers, but, cut that stuff up and just use it as towels. And I don't have any of that shoved in my, because, wiping down carbon, or speaking of oil and guns, if you have to pop the bolt out, wipe it down, throw it back in,
away.
and then you just toss it. That's one thing, don't obviously take any, I wouldn't wash any of that. I would never put those carbon-covered rags in I just throw them out. So whatever you do, get something disposable.
Well, if you look at how long a T-shirt lasts for most people, you're going to have more T-shirts than you're going to have
no doubt.
need for.
I'm trying to think. Is there anything else I'm just missing?
I'll tell you something that I really need to put in my bags is some sort of rod to punch out, like if there's a squib load or a stuck case.
Oh, yeah.
That is something I clean all my guns. I clean the bores with bore snakes. And I've got rods, but they're like always buried at home somewhere. So,
well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't keep. I can't speak for everybody else, but I don't keep a cleaning kit in there at all.
Yeah, I think I need to do that, but when I do it, I need to build my own out because all the existing ones on the market, like they're huge
and they're universal. They have way too much stuff in them. Yeah, because really all you need is your primary bore snakes, which cover the whole. Like you get your 22 caliber bore snakes.
Yeah.
You need your 9mm bore snakes, and that pretty much covers the gamut.
Yeah.
Most.
If you want, throw a 5.56 or a 30 cal.
Well, it's covered by the 22 caliber.
Yeah.
One, so
didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So if you have a 22 caliber one, you got your 5.56 now.
9mm, 38.
Yeah. So that would cover. You just need those two bore snakes, and you should be good.
Yeah, but I do think having a rod.
Oh, for sure.
You can buy a cheap little kit though for an AR for the 22 caliber stuff, and then get a 30 cal rod, and
they're real small. They're small little jobs, and just throw them in a pocket.
That's something I need to add.
I'll probably do that when we leave here. Probably order something.
I'll be on Amazon, and then
Let's not give Amazon anyway. Let's support
Brownells, PSA.
Let's keep it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I actually need to order some more stuff from Brownells. So
let's support Brownells.
That sounds good.
I just don't like giving it all to Amazon. They got enough money. Let's help out the gun industry.
I couldn't agree with that more.
Well, I think that's a wrap.
All right.